This morning, we will begin with our Black History Month commemoration. The theme of this year's commemoration is African American changemakers who are leading, healing, and shaping Montgomery County. The commemoration will include a video highlighting these leaders and a proclamation presentation. There's no denying that we're all better off due to the great contributions made by African American trailblazers such as Maya Angelou, Congressman John Lewis, Thurgood Marshall, Ida B. Wells Barnett, Martin Luther King, and many more. However, it's equally important to recognize the great work African American leaders are doing here every day in our own county. In our county, we know we have so much work to do to continue to challenge the status quo and to dismantle racist systems wherever they impede justice for those who call Montgomery County home. We're comforted in Dr. King's belief that somehow the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And as President Obama said, we are the ones who bend that arc. It's not passive or automatic. The moral arc bends because in every generation, there are more people who look to the light instead of the darkness and who commit to remaking our communities instead of tearing them apart. Dr. King acknowledged that this is a necessary struggle. In his words, a struggle to save the soul of our nation, for no nation can rise to its full moral maturity so long as it subjects a segment of its citizenry on the basis of color and race. So our struggle continues into 2021. We will continue to organize and show up and speak out and make our voices heard all across our community and our nation. I can assure you that everyone in our county is better off because of the important work being done by the individuals we're recognizing today. In a time of uncertainty and need, these individuals have stepped up to the challenge and ensured the voices and needs of the Black community are represented. We know that there's much more work that needs to be done, especially in overcoming this pandemic. Nonetheless, I'm committed to continuing this work with these great leaders, the community, and all stakeholders in building a more inclusive and equitable future for all, not just during the month of February, but every single month of the year. Last, I ask that you join us in recognizing the great work these leaders are doing and the contributions that the Black community continues to make in our county. Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. And, today marks a special occasion for us. It's the first time since we've really seen the global unrest, but here, especially in our country, around racism, around injustices that we see in our Black community, that we've had a chance to come together and talk about this specific issue in this specific framework. Let me just say that Black history is American history. And as you said, it's something that we need to honor and celebrate every day, but it goes deeper than that. The reality is that until we get over the kinds of injustices that we still have in our community, to which we celebrate the royalty of people who are wedded into the British monarchy, but yet we are the grandsons and great-grandsons of kings and queens in our own countries. But the second that we say that, people roll their eyes or look the other way as if something like that is silly. It's interesting, and I hope that people reflect on just that simple thing today and think to themselves that the folks that were here that were enslaved, they were not slaves, they were enslaved. The folks who were enslaved by others are all descendants of kings and queens that were brought here to the United States. So we are all descendants of royalty. And so in that light, the same respect that we bestow upon those who are across the sea, and we hold them in such high regard, I hope that we start holding our Black community in that same high regard. I hope that we see them on the same level. I hope that we see them as equals and not as lesser than. I hope that we can get over the fact of saying Black Lives Matter and instead understand that Black lives are truly phenomenal, that Black lives contribute so much to what it is that we do here each and every day in this country. Acknowledge that Black lives are truly one of the contributors to how great this nation has become. The whole push for Black Lives Matter movement is such a base. It's the bottom rung of what we deserve as Black people in this country. And so then to hear people who can't even acknowledge the simple phrase that Black Lives Matter says something about how much farther we still need to go. As I went to Ethiopia almost 2 years ago and had a chance to see some of the folks there and how they live, how they cherish America, how they think about how America is the land of opportunity. I really want that to be the case. I want it to be that those young boys and girls can aspire to travel across to another country and seek out opportunity, to seek out a positive life in another country. But the reality is that for far too many, unfortunately, that is not the case. For far too many who are faced with racism, discrimination, to be put down simply because the color of their skin is different, still exists today. As we saw the Confederate flag walk through the Capitol, we know racism is still real, that people still don't accept the fact of our true lineage as kings and queens, as leaders in this global community. And until that day comes, we will continue to have to fight to make sure that people understand truly the role of Black people, not only in America, but in this world, as equals, as leaders, as trailblazers. That's where we deserve to be. And I look forward to that day when that truly happens. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilmember Rice, for those inspiring words. You know, and good morning to all of our guests. It's a little, unfortunately, we're not able to be with you in person. Last year, this time, this was in person. That was one of the last things we did before the pandemic kicked in. And boy, what a year it's been for our country and our county and for Black people in this country. Black history is unlike any other story ever told in the world. And it's a story of resilience and passion and sorrow and tragedy. But as Councilmember Rice mentioned, it's also a story of excellence and overcoming. And it's complicated. Many of our ancestors were brought here as enslaved individuals, a very important distinction. And those that survived that brutal journey birthed generations of people who became some of our greatest educators, scientists, freedom fighters, trendsetters, and world changers. Because of them, I and Councilmember Rice and so many others are able to stand before you today as council members, as elected officials, as doctors, as lawyers, as tradesmen and women, go down the list because of those sacrifices of previous generations. So today and all this month and all year, because it is American history, let us reflect on the centuries of struggle and progress that have brought us to what we're in right now, a time of reckoning, a time of redemption, a time of hope, where we have the opportunity. How blessed are we to sit here today, to have the opportunity to remake our nation and bring it closer to those founding principles, which we know have never been, but that we always achieve and strive for. The principles of liberty and justice for all, the ability to use your God-given potential for the benefit of yourself, your family, your country, your world. And so African Americans have a rich history here in Maryland and in Montgomery County specifically. Not only are we the home to Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and Thurgood Marshall, but today we're going to hear from some of our local heroes who have been and are making their own path and their own history in service of our county, our state, and our nation. Let's also take time this month to remember in this year the countless heroes and figures whose names we'll never know, who gave their lives to build this nation in silence and suffering, who had joy, who had children who had memories, but that aren't written down. Let's not forget how they continue to impact their lives and the legacy in the nation that they bequeathed us as we move through our work in whatever field of endeavor. So happy Black History Month, and really looking forward to the commemorations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Member. And now we'll have the video presentation.
Each February, we celebrate Black History Month by recognizing the men and women who have made significant contributions to our culture.
There is no doubt that 2020 will go down in history for many reasons, but chief among them is the fact that we elected Kamala Harris, our first African-American woman vice president, an alum of Howard University, a historically Black college, and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, a historically Black sorority.
This year, we saw a significant disproportionate number of Blacks lose their lives and their jobs to COVID-19. And couple that with the unrest that we saw related to the killings of people like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor.
But through it all, Montgomery County has worked hard to remain a place that cares for every resident and that respects equity.
This Black History Month, we honor just a few of the change makers in our community,
who make us strong and proud to be who we are. Happy Black History Month.
Being around people of different backgrounds, our world is getting increasingly diverse. You need to understand how to operate with people from different backgrounds.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
If there's one thing that's been defined over the past year, it's the power of youth activism. And young people here in Montgomery County are raising their voices and proving there's no limit for social change.
Good to see everybody.
Avery Smedley is a senior at Albert Einstein High School. She started Students Towards Equitable Public Schools, or STEPS, the mission of this student-led group to bring equity to Montgomery County Public Schools.
I feel like there's a lot of impetus for curriculum changes right now, and really just have to seize this moment, because there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of things around racial equity. We have such a culture of student advocacy, but the only thing is we're not really seeing so many stakeholders in that advocacy. So we were thinking with STEPS, we really wanted to, get more students from the Down County Consortium, where I'm from. I go to Einstein, and then students from NEC to really show them your voice matters and give them a space in advocacy.
The group started a year ago and coalesced around the recent MCPS boundary study, where there were strong opinions on how to redraw school boundaries. The members of STEPS met with school officials and lawmakers to advocate for change they wanted to be considered during the decision-making process.
Well, definitely looking at policy. I mean, the fact of the matter is our schools are segregated.
Really discouraging to go to another school for an athletic event or something and to see how much nicer that they have it.
It just doesn't make any sense. We are in the same county. Funding is the same, but looking at PTAs, who has more monetary power, more political clout, we're seeing very different experiences for students just depending on their zip code and the color of their skin.
Hi, my name is Avery Smedley.
Avery grew up in Montgomery County and first attended an all-white elementary school where she realized pretty quickly she didn't look like the other kids.
It was really isolating for me being an elementary schooler in an all-white elementary school. You realize pretty quickly, hey, you do not look like the other kids. You are a person of color. We talked about when I was in first grade, this girl said to me, Avery, if you get any darker, I can't play with you. And I was horrified to go outside. One day, my mom, we lived right up the street. She was like, Avery, it's a really nice day. Let's stay out on the playground. And I just burst into tears, because I was horrified to get darker.
There's a different energy this time. This is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of the end. But we've got to educate ourselves. We've got to educate our children.
Just beyond that, segregation hurts white students as well. It hurts everybody. I mean, being around people of different backgrounds, we've seen that it helps with your cognitive abilities, your leadership skills, and our world is getting increasingly diverse, especially Montgomery County, but the United States, you can't be in a segregated place. You need to understand how to operate with people from different backgrounds. And also it's just really enriching, really interesting to be in an integrated environment.
This year, the group worked to get policy adopted designed to improve distance learning. And following the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the STEPS group decided it was time to have a voice in racial and social justice in our schools to underscore the need for better support for students.
We do definitely need more mental health supports. Montgomery County has one of the worst ratios of students to psychologists and counselors. I think at my school, we might even have like half a psychologist, not even one. Lots of schools have like half because our resources are very stretched. And if you look at the root causes of so many issues, like when you have police officers, that is dealing with the problem once it's already happened, once it's already occurred, giving somebody like an arrest record. But if you look at a child who brings a gun to school, like that's clearly like something going on, like a mental health issue.
Avery Smedley is headed to Duke University in the fall to study public policy, specifically housing and education.
Ending housing and school segregation would mitigate racism, the opportunity gap, the healthcare gap. I had to use this knowledge to create change.
2 areas that she says are key in integrating our communities and making our nation equitable.
I've always cared about these issues, but I never really thought that I could make a difference. So to be able to do this in such a short time, and I really feel like as I'm going to college, I'm leaving with me like a sustainable movement, and I hope that more students who look like me and students in general will feel like their voices matter.
We have the opportunity to undo de facto segregation in Montgomery County and actually make our schools a reflection of our diverse district. We have the opportunity to stop little children from hating each other and themselves.
And so as a leader, I'm really more proud about creating other leaders.
Joe Hooks has made it his personal mission to give back to the community that he says gave so much to him.
It's building leaders, and really teaching that humility and just showing that we care. It's not always about sports, but it's just about what we can do for others.
This Montgomery Village native graduated from Watkins Mill High School and went on to play football at Shepherd University. When his hopes of playing for the NFL didn't pan out, Hooks became a coach at his old high school and started the 480 Club, a nonprofit for student athletes that offers training while at the same time teaching important life lessons to reach and inspire young people.
Sports taught me a lot. It taught me teamwork. In this world, we have to be a team to get things done. Communication, brotherhood, being dependable for each other. And like I tell them, every day we come out here, it's like a new play. We have to adapt on the fly. We have to survive. We have to uplift each other. We have to be flexible with our skills, and football is perseverance.
Hooks has become a hero of sorts to the adolescents in the community. Not only is he making an impact by giving the youth options to grow,
you get a couple bananas, a couple breads, a couple apples, a couple potatoes, and just grab a pie.
He's showing them what it means to be a part of the community. Every week since June at Montgomery Village Middle School, Hooks organizes a food drive for families who are suffering due to the pandemic.
I wanted to show positivity, show love, show service. Take care. People trust who they trust. And when we first started, I wanted them to see a familiar face, to see an African-American man lead and serve whoever. And that's what it's about. And we've had anyone and everybody, any color, any diversity, come get food and change the narrative.
He's recruited members of his 480 Club to come out and pack up the food and supplies and take part in distributing the groceries to the families who line up hours before the drive begins.
Oh, is that the line back there? oh, shoot. Young kids just needed some positive influence. So I felt we talked twice a week. I thought this was a good way to have some interaction safely and really build some skills up. So, when it gets warmer, we'll do some sports stuff and just know that's bigger than sports and we can do more things.
In addition to his advocacy with the 480 Club, Hooks has done work as a community outreach truancy prevention coordinator with the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office, where he helps students improve their attendance and grades.
I started to realize what the government can do for the community. I can't imagine living in another county.
He believes it's imperative to build these young men up and help them understand the role they play in the future of their community.
I want them to remember that they can come together, put positivity back out there instead of negativity. These kids are on social media and they don't have the guidance as much without being in school. And this is a safe place where they can hear less of a angry tone about what's going on and but also acknowledge it and to let them know that, hey, did you see what's on the news? Give them a hug, ask them how you're doing, meet them where they are. And so as a leader, I'm really more proud about creating other leaders.
My job and the constituents who I have to answer to are the 1.1 million residents of Montgomery County.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to residents of Montgomery County.
Dr. Travis Gales grew up in Chase City, Virginia, with his two siblings and parents that raised their children with a strong sense of values. He is the first physician in his family and gives credit to his parents' hard work that created the space for him to have the opportunity to become a doctor.
I chose to go into medicine because from a strictly academic standpoint, I'm fascinated by physiology and anatomy. And it's one of the few professions where I think you can bring together the social aspects of how you interact with folks and how you work to create change and make things better with the scientific aspects or the biological scientific aspects. And then the other component is, still being able to do something that's working with people directly to see the benefit of the work that you're doing.
In 2017, when Travis Gales took the job of county health officer, he didn't think his job would include leading a pandemic response.
We are living in unprecedented times.
Though it was something he had to study and think about, he will tell you in our time no one has had to put those principles into practice. Today, Dr. Travis Gales is the face of the coronavirus here in Montgomery County.
Make sure it's securely over your nose and your mouth.
And he's worked hard to let people know this isn't about politics for him.
Well, even in a political setting, my job and the constituents who I have to answer to are the 1.1 million residents of Montgomery County. And so as a result, if you notice any of our press briefings, there's a couple things that I try to do is to say, for the folks at home watching,
I'd like to give you some insights for the folks at home into the world we live in.
Even if it's a question with a political band, because that's the audience who needs to hear it and who needs to trust what we're saying and trust the guidance that we're putting out. I also try to make it very clear that I am not a political official. I'm not an elected official.
Dr. Gales! Who elected you?
And my job is to provide objective guidance. And so sometimes you may hear me say, from a health perspective, here is what we're proposing, recognizing that there are political influences that do complicate decisions that ultimately will be made.
He doesn't hesitate to say the work has been challenging, especially when the attacks become personal. He's been called arrogant and difficult to work with, and some of the criticism has been racist in nature. But in these instances, he always remembers representation matters, a lesson he learned early in his career.
I think it was my second year of residency. I was post-call. I was trying to get out of the hospital, and I was literally at the door, out the front door, and the woman just is yelling like, "Doctor, doctor, doctor." And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm trying to get home. And she came up and she said, "I'm sorry to bother you. I don't know you. My son has been coming to the hospital for years, and he has never seen a black male doctor before. And so would you speak to him and say hi? So I just want to introduce him." Because she said it was important for him to see that, to know what his scope of possibilities would be.
The COVID-19 pandemic has revealed further evidence of long-standing health inequities nationwide as well as here in Montgomery County. Dr. Gale says these inequities have existed for many years, and it angers and frustrates him because there's been no system created to move beyond identifying the problem.
And so my hope is that post-COVID that we continue to have these conversations centered around why those disparities are in place. Everybody's gung-ho about contact tracing and let's put money here and put money there. Public health has been woefully and inadequately funded for years. And so I think this is a great opportunity to create a modern infrastructure that's up to date from a technology perspective and has the type of resources in place to not only implement some of those systemic changes that need to happen to address those health disparities, but really move the agenda to the next level.
Though there is a light at the end of the tunnel with this pandemic, Dr. Gale says we as a community have an opportunity to take not only what we have learned from this crisis, but also to use the current racial and social justice climate to come together to address these social determinants.
I think of the opportunity in the space of giving representation and voice to all the other people who don't have access to this space, And so not forgetting when you're sitting at the table in decision-making capacity to call out those isms and those phobias and to call out those disparities and to hold people accountable, because unless we do that, we'll just continue to gloss over and we won't do the internal work that we need to do as individuals, as a county, as elected officials and so forth, to again create that systemic change that needs to happen, so we're not talking about the same issues 20 years later that we already know existed in our communities.
We are so proud that we were named as the most diverse community college in the continental United States. That each and every person who comes to Montgomery College has the opportunity, dare I say the right, to feel that they have a space here and that we're going to meet them where they are.
In 2010, when Dr. Darion Pollard was chosen as president of Montgomery College, she became the first African-American woman to lead the institution. In the past 10 years, so much has changed when it comes to the community college experience. It's become a viable option for many people in getting a job or working toward a 4-year degree.
Now, I'm pleased to see so many graduates who are here today.
And under Dr. Pollard's leadership, Montgomery College has been able to capitalize on this new way of getting an education.
We recognize that the health and wealth of our community is dependent upon us doing the work that we do, and our success as a college is dependent on the community that we serve. We are so proud that we were named as the most diverse community college in the continental United States because of this wealth of inclusion and diversity that we have here at Montgomery College.
Montgomery College is the most diverse college in the country. 75% of the population are students of color, many of them first-generation college students and immigrants. The COVID-19 pandemic magnified some of the challenges that Montgomery College already saw amongst its student population. And while some people might be talking about big plans post-COVID,
many of our students are talking about food banks.
Thank you. You're welcome.
They're talking about unemployment. They're talking about hospital bills as a result of COVID. They're talking about COVID funerals. We were able to put out immediately to students almost $1 million of emergency funds. So we know that students aren't going to be thinking about school when they're hungry. We know that they're not going to be thinking about their next assignment if they're wondering how their rent is going to get paid. So we were able to step in and help so many of our students who needed basic skill security, as well as those who were also needing technology support.
Dr. Pollard says the reality is we are fighting two pandemics at this time and that one is amplifying the other. This includes the recognition that COVID-19 is adversely affecting the Black and Brown community as well as communities of poverty.
We also know this work around racial equity, this conversation of calling out white supremacy, being very clear about the fact that social justice is a part of what we do at Montgomery College. In fact, it's a part of our ethos as an institution. So we need to do several things. One is to name it. So I was very proud of statements that the Board of Trustees and also I did as a college president, articulating our commitment around Black Lives Matter, but also the fact that we want to be a part of the solution for our community. Part of that is creating space and place for dialogue. So we had a series of conversations where we brought in our faculty who are content experts in many areas surrounding this: political science, criminal justice reform, helping people understand and grapple with the language of the discourse community that we're a part of. And we were actively engaged in that.
Dr. Pollard says the college has a duty to provide high-quality, affordable education to the community they serve, what she calls an act of deliberate love. In her role as a leader in Montgomery County, where she wears multiple hats, she thinks carefully about how and when to use her voice.
I don't want to be the loudest voice. I don't want to be the one that talks the most, but I want to be the one that has one thing that I am able to say that resonates. As an out Black woman who is married, who's parenting a child, who lives in the northern part of the community, who's very much committed and active in the communities that we serve. I'm a mother of a gorgeous brown boy, and a part of me has to help him be prepared for the reality. So the conversations I have as a college president are deeply connected to the conversations I have as a Black woman. We're going to have to go through a little bit more pain and hurt as a community and as a country until we really actualize the idealism of what was intended in our founding. but I have confidence that we can do it.
You are true leaders, and you cannot help but become hope for all of us. We need you to be that hope for all of us.
You don't need to go through the dumpster. We have plenty of food in here and we'll take care of you. And for us, it's about giving them hope.
It's become a familiar sight over the past year. Cars lining the streets waiting for hours to receive food from one of the many distribution sites in Montgomery County. The COVID-19 pandemic has intensified food insecurity here.
And help us to just be a blessing. And we just thank you for it, Father.
Something Reverend Pat Drumming knows all too well.
We just thank you and give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, thank you, thank you. Ooh.
Before COVID-19, the Rainbow Community Food Pantry was serving 60 families per week. Today, they are providing 125 pounds of groceries to more than 500 families each week.
We were getting the calls continuously. Even before COVID, we knew that there was a great need because, you know, this is the most ethnically diverse zip code in the entire state of Maryland. We have a lot of immigrants here, and not just immigrants who are coming to go to school. They're coming to go to school, but they have children and families. So they're working a lot of low-end jobs, you know, to make ends meet. But I got calls last night from my scheduler saying there's so many people that are begging, saying, please, please, can you fit me in tomorrow? And there's no way we're going to say no.
Nice and fresh. A woman who comes here, this is last year, but she had shared with me that morning. She said she got up and there was no food, none to feed her family, and she just started out on a quest. And that day when we pushed that cart of food out, she just cried. She just cried. I cried with her. I don't think it's a shortage of food. It's just maybe a shortage of compassion.
Reverend Drumming has a team of volunteers that show up regularly to make donations, pack up food, and deliver it.
Portobello mushrooms.
She and her team make it a point not to make anyone feel self-conscious about asking for help, and to treat everyone who needs it with dignity and respect.
Was there any special needs?
She insists on a resilience to be of service with no judgment.
Hunger never takes a holiday, but you know that you put your heart and soul in it. And there's so many people who are working so hard to take care of their families. They're doing everything that they can. Just 2 days ago, one of my volunteers was here, and she was here early. There was a gentleman going through the dumpster out there, and she was able to say to him, you don't need to go through the dumpster. We have plenty of food in here, and we'll take care of you. So those are the times that just grip your heart, and for us, it's about giving them hope.
The support of Montgomery County has been essential in her ability to feed the hungry. Reverend Drumming says the pandemic has given the county an opportunity to shine even more as a community that will mobilize to take care of its residents.
Even with COVID, they jumped in so quickly to organize with the council and the Montgomery Food Council as well. They included all of the food partners, and if we knew of any other partners, they even included new groups that said, look, we're willing to take on this task and make sure that everybody has food. No one's food insecure.
And to live with the worry as to where your next meal is coming from is something Pat Drumming can relate to. She grew up in poverty during the Civil Rights Movement, and the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. that everyone would have equal opportunity is something she has hope for as we move into this new time in our history.
This is America. This is what makes us strong. We're stronger together. That was the theme last night as well, and helping us to understand that we can do so much more together, and we're so much stronger when we are in unity and not tearing each other apart, and that when we're willing to help each other, no matter who we are.
Thank you, everyone. That was terrific. Thanks so much to our staff who were able to put that together. Next, we want to hear comments from the honorees who were covered in the video and allow them to speak. But first, I also want to recognize, and it's awkward to do this virtually. We're used to being in the same room with so many of our great friends and leaders from around the county. But I want to recognize all of our guests who have joined us virtually this morning. I don't know if Mary's able to allow them to turn on their their videos to be greeted by us, but we're really, whether or not that's true, we're really grateful for your participation. We're really glad you're here, and we're really appreciative of all that all of our guests do to give us a more inclusive and equitable county every single year, whether you're among the awardees or not. So it's nice to see Joa and Byron, Beatrice, and so many others. And I'm sure my colleagues are very, very grateful for your contributions as well. So with that, with those on, thank you, Mary. Let me first call on Avery to comment on the video. Thank you.
Thank you, President Hucker. I just want to thank everyone, thank the County Council. I am so honored and grateful to be here, truly, truly among such amazing activists and giants who are doing such great work. To be amongst these people is such a great honor. I'm really thinking about the arc of history and how, you know, my great-great-grandparents, they were viewed as property by their government and their community. And now here I am, and my local government and community is honoring me for fighting for those principles that Councilmember Joano spoke so eloquently to. And I just never in their wildest dreams would my great-great-grandparents would have imagined that for me. So just, I think we can take two things away from that. First, like, we've come such a long way. The fact that I know people who knew enslaved people, and now here I am. But also taking away from this, you know, slavery was normalized for them. And so we should also keep in mind that the state of things right now is normalized for us, and change does not always come so easily or obviously. So I thank the County Council for what it's done in pushing for racial equity, and I hope we continue to do so and supporting things that are not so obvious and easy, like getting police officers out of schools and integrating our school district. But again, thank you so much. This is such an honor.
Thank you so much, Avery. Joseph?
Thank you, President. I just want to say thank you, Susan and Mike Springer, for coming out for this acknowledgement as well. And thank you for everybody else. Salute to you. It's very inspiring. I just want to say a few words, you know, just very honorable. I want to thank my fiance who supports me from behind the scenes to have the time to serve. And just want to say happy Black History Month to Montgomery County and everyone who makes an impact. You know, Black lives does matter. Just a little bit of history. My grandfather, great-grandfather, was a colonel, and my grandfather moved from Philadelphia to Montgomery County and did a lot of work in equal opportunity. And my grandmother was a caregiver. And since then, so many of us have been able to lead in different fields, like my sister, who's the director of communications, and my cousin, who's a police chief. You know, growing up being a boy and being Black was tough, but I was really built strong. A lot of educators and coaches never gave up on me, and sports was my hook. And my mother trusted those opportunities. And, you know, I love sports, and I love winning and training, and I love coaching. And while she ran a home daycare for 20 years, I was able to work with so many diverse families. And that gave me the core values to want to give back. You know, having the compassion to build, create, collaborate. You know, God bless her. She's a executive director of Celebrate School. So, you know, 40 Club was designed to do what you all saw and help so many impact so many youth and family. And, you know, I'm very inspired to work with so many friends and family volunteers that make that happen every day. It takes a village, and it's just proof that anything is possible. Nothing is impossible. You know, being able to work with MVSA, work with Identity. I work with College Tracks now as a college success coach, and it's really important to work with everybody and build our community that Montgomery County really wants to continue to thrive. So, you know, I'm just honored to be here today. I'm looking forward to continue to work with Montgomery County and thrive. And hopefully we can keep everybody safe and wear a mask. You know, everybody's been touched by this. And now I want to say rest in peace to Stella Cruz, who lost her life to COVID, but is resting in heaven. So thank you much, everybody. Looking forward to continue to be a part of Montgomery County.
Thank you so much, Joe. Reverend Pat. Is Reverend Pat with us?
Well, good morning to everyone. Thank you so much to the County Council, to Council President Hucker. Thank you so much for this honor. I'm deeply honored. We are deeply honored because there's nothing that I could do without the great team that we have here at Rainbow. And we're so honored to be named among such great honorees. Thank you all for everything that you do. You know, for me, listening to them just just encouraged my heart so much to hear the younger people, the people that are behind us, having grown up in the 60s and experienced so much. For me, I didn't even understand, when they were integrating our schools, they gave us a Caucasian teacher. So I didn't really understand what all the riots were about, et cetera. But later, as I grew in life, I began to understand certain things. But I am so grateful for the opportunities that have been given to me, and to be able to speak today and to share our heart. There have been so many great leaders throughout our history, not just Black history, but throughout the history of America. And we think about the role that the church plays. It's been very critical to helping to move the needle forward. Back, there was Bishop Richard Allen way back. You think about even in the church, I'm ashamed to say that there was so much discrimination and racial hatred that other churches had to be started just so that Blacks could have a place to worship. But that church was so vital to the community, just like it is today. We play such a great role because the church became the educators. The church became the one who provided. Even when the African Americans and Blacks were lacking resources for themselves, they were able to pull together so that they could help others. I am so thankful to have lived and to have been able to witness the election of our first African American president, Barack Obama, and to see the progress that we had made or that we thought we had made, and then to come to 2020 and see that the progress we thought we had made, there's still so much more that has to be done in electing the first African American female vice president. I'm so honored to have been a part of that and to witness that. I'm very hopeful for the change. And you can legislate. There are laws against discrimination, but you can't really legislate what's in someone's heart. So our desire and our goal is to help people to see the value of others. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of my greatest heroes. And most people, when we say that I have a dream speech, it was really a sermon that he gave. And actually, the first place he preached that was in a church in North Carolina, where I'm from. But that is still the dream, and we have to focus on that dream. We have to keep that we will all be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. So again, I just want to thank you so much and recognize the work that Montgomery County is doing. You are doing such a great job of inclusion and making sure that there's racial equity among the residents here. And we are grateful and we thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Pat. Dr. Gales.
Good morning. You all have to hear from me all the time, so I'll keep this short, and I know we're going to spend a few hours together this morning. But I would like to say thank you for the opportunity to be included with Avery and Joe and Dr. Pollard and Reverend Pat and others in the video. And I am inspired by the work that you all continue to do. And I have to say a special word to Avery. You are going to the finest institution in the country. And I'm excited for you as you begin your next chapter. As you may know, I'm an alum of Duke, so I have to rep for Duke. But excited for you to pursue your next chapter and the world that is before you in terms of opportunities that have been created by folks such as Reverend Pat and Dr. Pollard and the work that Joe is doing and so many others. It is an exciting time. It's a scary time. It's an uncertain time. But what is certain is that we still have a lot of tremendous work that needs to be done to address the issues that continue to plague our society. And I hope that at every opportunity and every table that you're invited to in the boardroom or dining room or wherever you are, that you continue to take up your place that is well deserved, is well earned. And it's important to give voice to all of those others who don't have an opportunity to be there in that space, because representation does matter. And not only does representation matter, taking up your space and using it to your full capacity also matters as well. So good luck, best wishes to you. And to the other folks who've been included in the video, please keep up the fantastic work you're doing. And if we in Public Health Services can be of any support to you, don't hesitate to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And finally, Dr. Pollard.
She's unable to join.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, too bad. But we're very grateful for her contribution as always. Okay, now we move on to comments from council members. Councilmember Albornoz.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was a beautiful presentation. I want to especially thank Council Members Jawando and Rice. It's an honor serving with both of you, working with both of you. I saw earlier former Councilmember Valerie Irvin was on the screen as well. Not sure if she's still with us, but appreciate her remarkable leadership. And I had the opportunity to work for former County Executive Ike Leggett, who was a trailblazer in so many ways and in his own right, and somebody who taught me so many values, and one of my most prized possessions is the picture that I have over my right-hand shoulder. And I also want to acknowledge Joe Hooks and his story. Sports was a big part of my life as well. And another cherished possession is a letter that I received when I was 12 years old from Doug Williams after he won the Super Bowl. And it's something that I carry with me all the time. I want to especially acknowledge the African American Health Program, Dr. Gales and Dr. Kroll, for their heroic efforts over this last year and many years before that to keep our community safe. We have a long way to go to get through this pandemic, but I'm confident because of the leadership of the people that we highlighted in this video that we are going to make it through, and we're going to make it through stronger. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilmember Novato.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to also thank Councilmember Rice and Jawando. This was an amazing presentation. The people that were highlighted in this video really, in my opinion, are a snapshot of the extraordinary assets that we have here in the county. This is such an amazing place because we do have so many people that are always stepping up to make our county a better place to live. And I want to also recognize all those that were invited to be guests. This term trailblazer is an important one, and I myself always make sure to, give honor and recognition to those who have really, truly opened a path for so many. As everybody knows, my household is a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial household. My husband, of course, is originally from Haiti, and I have these two extraordinary Afro-Latina young women who are always looking at ways to make not only the county, the region, but this country and the world a better place. And this notion of the amazing talent, the amazing potential that our young people bring to the table gives me a lot of hope. So happy Black History Month. It is a history that is shared by so many in the diaspora as well. And I think it is a very important time for us to recommit ourselves to this notion of racial equity and social justice, which luckily we at least began to set forth that foundation in 2018 through the racial equity and social justice law that I was proud to author and work with my colleagues to pass. But it is important for all of you who are here, who are being recognized, to take it forward and to make sure that this becomes a real, true, authentic reality here in Montgomery County. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you so much for everything you do for our county.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to extend my appreciation to Council Members Rice and Jawando for your leadership and your representation here in Rockville and across the county. I also want to thank the community leaders for being here today and for everything that you all do in our community day in and day out for our village, our 1.1 million person village here in Montgomery County. We live in a wonderful community, but we can and have to make it better. We can make it more inclusive, we can make it more fair and more equitable. And I'm committed to doing that work with you, making that positive change, making good trouble alongside you. And let's move forward and carry on the work that we know we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you, Council President. And I too want to thank and congratulate Council Members Rice and Jawando and all of my colleagues for all that you do. We work together to get to a better place. And when I saw the video, and I certainly want to congratulate Susan Kennedy and Mike Springarth and everyone who's associated with doing the video, it was truly wonderful. I had tears of pride, and I really mean that sincerely. That some of you who were the heroes on this video I've known for years. Some of you I hope I will know for years. You truly are making a difference in Montgomery County and candidly in the world. Joey, and I keep calling him Joey, and I shouldn't do that, but he smiled. Joe Hooks, whom my nephew and he have been friends for many, many years. I know his mother has done a marvelous job, and all the community has done a marvelous job getting him to where he is today. Dr. Gales, I had to look up Chase City, Virginia. I'd never heard of that metropolis prior to today, but I did look it up, and I know that they are certainly very, very proud of the person who came from their community, and the list goes on. Dr. Pollard talked about being a part of the solution. Dr. Pollard is a great part of the solution, and Avery, you mentioned that segregation hurts everyone. I can tell you that is absolutely true. My third grade classmate, Greg Wims, is on this call. He and I lived through segregation, and I can tell you because of our friendship, we have gotten so much further in life. So I appreciate it. I wish I could go down the list, but I know that we're short on time today. But let me just end by saying that all of us, I've always say that a community is a family, and our family is going to have to come together once again to get us to a better place in Montgomery County. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember, and Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow, what a powerful and poignant commemoration this morning. I just want to say how fortunate we are to have the 5 leaders profiled in the video and so many other leaders of color who are serving our community, helping to make Montgomery County a safer and healthier place while pushing for greater opportunities for those who too often have lacked those opportunities. Avery Smedley, Joe Hooks, Reverend Henley, Dr. Pollard, and Dr. Gales, your work motivates us. Your stories really do inspire us and have done so again this morning. And I've got to say, it may not be virtual, but something tells me, I have a sneaking suspicion that this won't be the last time, Avery, that you'll be speaking from a dais here in Montgomery County, hopefully, but certainly somewhere. And as Frederick Douglass said, we have to do with our past only as we can make it useful for the present and future. The past informs the present. It helps shape our future. And to me, that's really what we're doing today, honoring the past, celebrating the past, but ensuring that we're using that past, all of that past, to make sure that it helps set our course as we move forward to a more inclusive, more equitable, more fair and just community. And just really appreciate everything that you've done, the way that we've allowed your stories to lift up other stories and your lives to lift up other lives in our community. Thanks for sharing your light and providing a little bit of warmth at a time that has felt dark and cold at moments. And I also wanted to note, as other colleagues did, that I am truly honored and privileged to work with friends and colleagues, council members Rice and Jawando, who continue to open up doors and create opportunities for those that are coming behind them, as so many in our community did before them, like County Executive Leggett and so many others, as Councilmember Albernas noted. So happy Black History. I truly appreciate this moment, and really was a welcome reprieve from the challenges that we face in our community. Thanks for all you do in our community and all you'll continue to do to lift people up.
Terrific, thank you. I don't see any other requests to speak, so we can move on to the proclamation. My colleagues, I believe, have assigned paragraphs in order. Thank you.
Council President, I think Councilmember Reamer was trying to get in there.
Councilmember Reamer.
I'm sorry, I forgot to request. I just thought we were all.
Yep, sorry. Go ahead, please.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Councilmember Jawando. Appreciate that. Just wanted to briefly say today, I invited Pamela Young to join us, and she's president of the Silver Spring chapter of the Links. And the Links are a community service organization of Black women founded in 1972. After 48 years, they are stronger than ever. They provide supportive programs for disadvantaged children. They engage residents in dialogue about challenging community issues. And I can add that I have a personal view, like Councilmember Juando. We are connecting links into this dynamic group because my wife, Angela, is an active member. And wanted to add that in these really challenging times, our country, I think in spite of itself, continues to benefit from the leadership of Black women. And we are so thankful for Kamala Harris making history as our first woman to be vice president and our first African-American vice president. We are thankful for Stacey Abrams, who inspired the residents of Georgia to claim their power and pull us out of the ditch that we've been in. So I just know that I speak on behalf of a very grateful community in saying thanks for everyone, every mother, every aunt, every grandmother, every friend, every mentor. Thank you to the Black women of our community and our country for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Council Member, for recognizing. I wanted to recognize another one of our guests who does so much for our community, Mr. Abdul Aziz Kamu, who helps lead the amazing, essential distribution of health services from the Muslim Community Clinic. I've been there many times. They serve so many elements and segments of our population that are very much underserved and are on the losing side of our health disparities. And they're in an essential part of the county. And both the medical and the dental clinic are so important to our entire county. And I'm really grateful for his service as well, and the service of everybody at the Muslim Medical Clinic, Dental Clinic. Okay, we can move on to the proclamation. Each council member will read one of the clauses in order. I'll begin this proclamation of the Montgomery County Council. Whereas, during Black History Month, we recognize and remember the people and events in the history of the African diaspora and the struggles and sacrifices made by African Americans to shape the U.S. And
whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, setting the U.S. on a path to end slavery. 1 century later, in 1963, more than 200,000 Americans gathered for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, calling for African American civil and economic rights. And
whereas Black History Month had its beginnings in the United States in 1926, when Black educator and historian Carter G. Woodson moved to officially recognize the achievements and contributions of African Americans to our nation's history and identity. And
whereas African Americans have contributed significantly to the growth and development of our nation and Montgomery County through distinguished leadership in every field of human endeavor. And
whereas this year's Black History Month theme is African American change makers who are leading, healing, and shaping Montgomery County. And
whereas young Black activists across our community are using their voices to fight for what they believe in and to create a more equitable and just society.
And whereas Black trailblazers are working each day to shape our future and are committed to giving back by helping the next generation realize their dreams. And
whereas Black faith, nonprofit, and community leaders have worked around the clock to get our community through a global pandemic with their dedication and devotion to helping those in need. And
whereas Montgomery County celebrates and honors the achievement and leadership of African Americans across our community, our nation, and our world.
now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby proclaims February as Black History Month, presented on the 9th day of February in the year 2021, signed by Council members Craig Rice and Will Juando and Council President Tom Hucker. Thank you all for all your contributions, for participating today, and thank you to our staff for putting this wonderful presentation together.